One of the most famous stories about Galileo is that once he dropped two metal balls off the Leaning Tower of Pisa, to investigate the acceleration of falling objects. He found that the heavy and the light ball hit the ground at the same time, and proved that acceleration due to gravity does not depend on mass. In actuality, this story is probably just a legend. However, astronaut David Scott, on the Apollo 15 lunar mission, did perform this famous Galileo test with a hammer and a feather, with low gravity on the surface of the moon, where there is no atmosphere. While it is true that under the force of gravity, all objects experience the same acceleration, in the real world we must take air resistance into account. Drag due to air resistance acts to slow down the rate of acceleration of a falling object. On a free body diagram, the force due to gravity points down, and the drag force opposes the direction of motion, similar to friction. It's possible for the forces to cancel each other out completely, so there is no net acceleration. When this happens to a free-falling object like a skydiver, the velocity at which they fall is called terminal velocity. A skydiver falling belly first has terminal velocity of about 200 km per hour, but if he pulls in his limbs, the terminal velocity increases to about 320 km per hour. This is because the amount of drag that an object experiences depends on the cross-sectional area. Felix Baumgartner set a world record by jumping from 38,970 meters above Earth and falling at 1,360 km per hour. This speed was achieved due to the high altitude, where the lower density of the atmosphere decreased drag. Because the Leaning Tower of Pisa is not a very tall building, the metal balls that Galileo dropped didn't have time to reach terminal velocity and hit the ground at the same time. On the moon, there is no air to cause drag, and the hammer and the feather fell to the ground at the same time, even though the feather would reach terminal velocity very quickly in Earth's atmosphere. Instead of climbing the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or flying to the moon, you will investigate air resistance and terminal velocity in the lab. In this experiment, you will explore how drag depends on velocity and mass,